I sort of have no words, Jonathan, unlike the words they came up with, but I'm sort of stuck on majestic. There was nothing majestic about the travesty and the very serious gravitas of what the country went through yesterday.
No, and some of the comments, they basically say, this has completed me. You had one acre that said, I've been covering him for 9 years, and finally this has come. And you want to say, if you were waiting to be completed by this conviction, that is a particularly sad moment in your life. But there is a dehumanizing aspect of talking about someone. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and you will never, ever see me celebrating a conviction, no matter who it is.
That's right.
My kids always would joke on sentencing day when I would come back from the courts, I would sit them all down and lecture them, never get into a car with someone you don't know, never get into a car with drugs, and they'd say, oh, it's sentencing day, because I would watch these young people go to jail. It's a sick sort of fascination. People like to see people fall from great heights, but these are human beings, and even if you don't like Trump, it's a pretty sad thing to celebrate.
I've been stressing that this entire time, that there is no glee in this, and I'm not quite sure why that has been harnessed and amplified throughout this country on the left. You contrast that, Kennedy, with, for example, the cover of the Post today, the New York Post, because that's the people who live here, and their cover said, injustice.
It is injustice, and it's injustice for the people that we have talked about, and also for the people who were celebrating the Rachel Maddows and the Katie Turas of the world. They're the ones who are saying the rule of law. You know, the rule of law applies to everyone. It finally works. Well, what about every other hush money payment that has ever been paid in every other presidential campaign in the history of this country? Because you know they're there. What, this one is just a little sloppier with the people that he hires? And so now there are people hoping for jail. What about, you know, we talk about using the media to spike stories. What about using an entire social media network to put an entire media organization in timeout, like Twitter did back then with the New York Post, to squash the Hunter Biden laptop story? What about that level of collusion? Does the rule of law not see that? Is it blind to all the other areas of life where people have applied CYA to ascend to power?
Well,
just wanted to know, we're seeing President Trump walk out of Trump Tower right now. So you watch him there. He's giving a wave, getting into the car. And, you know, to the point of Kennedy, you know, my head just goes to the journalism of yesteryear. I had a journalist in the White House press corps when I was there come up to me, an amazing journalist. And yes, they still exist. There are incredible, fair-minded journalists. And he said, I just wish we could get back to old school journalism. And as I watched that clip, look, some of those were commentators, so I don't want to disparage, you know, or elevate them to journalists. But I wish we could see the events of today play out through the prism of old journalism, because I think it would have been more fair to the American people, more even-handed, and fair to the former president.
Well, I want our justice to be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, when you read the U.S. Constitution, the first thing it says is establish justice before it gets to the defense, before it gets to the freedom. It's establish justice first. That's where I want to be. And I don't think it's an old school go back. I think we need to go forward and teach new generations about the value of that. The republic, if we can keep it, as Dr. Ben Franklin said at the time. So where do we go from here? I think Trump gave us some idea of where he's going to go if he sticks with it, and that is focus on the American people. So you and I were talking off camera. That means the rest of us have the responsibility to make sure that we're ready to vote early or vote on that day. And you have to start that plan now.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.